Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day so far, but if you don't, I do hope that better things will come our way. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. So if you're wondering why you're here, or maybe you accidentally clicked this video without knowing what you get yourself into, in this channel I'm going to talk more about my personal experience on things that I like, things that I enjoy, or the things that I want to explore more. The first thing on the list that I'm most interested in talking more about is my personal experience, real life experience in supernatural or paranormal activities, encounters, or even just any conversation or events that I had throughout my life. So the next story that I'm going to tell you will talk more about my conversation with my piano instructor, and I will give you more context about why I do feel that this is something supernatural. But yeah, without further ado, here's my second story: part-time piano teacher, part-time psychic. I do hope you enjoy the story, and let's start. When I was in 8th grade, my mom signed me up for a piano lesson. I never really liked playing piano or learn how to play piano because I think I'm just not talented enough or have enough discipline to actually learn how to play piano. I don't have any hate towards the instrument itself. It's just me. It's just I don't think I have the capability and capacity to learn it. But I went anyway. But I'm so sorry, Mom, for not learning how you want me to learn the piano. I changed piano instructor a couple of times. It's the decision of the place where I learned the piano. It's just because sometimes it's about the availability of the instructor or something like that. Each one of them were great. I really like each one of them. They have this infinite passion in teaching me how to play piano. But there was one particular instructor that was really memorable for me. In one of the lessons, it usually went by so fast. It's only 30 minutes lesson each time. While I was practicing in the piano room with the teacher, I saw a silhouette. So if you can imagine the room of the piano, it's like a very small room. The piano is here, the door outside is here, and then the window is over here. So I saw a silhouette of a guy from the window. At first I thought that it's just another student waiting for their allotted time, but that person started to call for my instructor. At first I didn't really pay attention to what he had to say, but because I was trying to find my way to get out of practicing piano, again, I'm so sorry, Mom. So I started to pay attention to what they were talking about. Turns out the guy outside was talking about a house. I'm not entirely sure the context about this house. It seems like this guy wants to visit the house or wanted to explore the house like an urban explorer. But the more I listened to what he had to say, it seems like he wanted to invite an exorcist to this house because he believed that there is something lingering in that house and he wants that house to be cleansed. So the piano instructor was quite hesitant in responding to this person. Rightfully so, I think, because at that time he was paying attention to teach me instead of having a conversation with someone. But he still respond out of politeness to the person. He just yes, some short answers. So I never really bothered about it as well, just because I find it fascinating, all of the conversation that they have. So one thing that struck me personally was that my instructors started to tell the guy, yeah, you should be careful in this area of the house, in the staircase, and there's a room there near the kitchen, blah 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 blah. And then he started naming the name of the ghost or the entity that is living in that house. I was taken aback by that, because how could he know about those kind of information? But yeah, after that, the guy, after hearing what my instructor said, the guy said thank you and he left. I was already so intrigued by this conversation, so I made small talk with the instructor. I asked him, have you been to this house before? Is this house a famous haunted house that I never know of? And then the piano instructor just said, no, I never been there before. I just see it in my mind's eye. I just said, okay. I really don't know what to answer him after that, but I think he noticed my skepticism, but he just kept quiet because we do still have around 15 minutes left in our lesson, so we just continue on. At the end of the lesson, he asked me, so are you interested in this kind of thing? It seems like I have an interest in supernatural. So I told him, yeah, I do have interest. It's not because I'm searching for it or actively wanting to know more. It's just I've seen it throughout my life. So yeah, I do have interest in it just because it happens a lot in my life. He was like, okay. Are you interested in knowing the entities in your house? At that point, I know the sanest thing to do was supposed to say no, just because I'm a scaredy cat. So I think knowing where the entities are in my house is not a very bright idea. But silly me, I just said yes. I want to know. He started describing the layout of my house. First of all, it's really amazing how he perfectly described the layout of my house. He never been in my house before. This is my second time meeting him, and he never came to my house before. He started to explain the layout of my house, where the staircase are, and the shape of the staircase in my house is a little bit unconventional. So it's not a usual thing that people know a house will have something like that. And then my house, the first floor in my house is an open concept. What I mean by open concept is open concept. I used to live in a country which only have 2 seasons, so the backyard has no wall, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's an open concept, so it's just living room, dining room, and straight up backyard, which is a little bit weird as well in my country to have something like that. But yeah, and then he even knew that there's a tree in my house. It's a frangipani tree, which is not something that people usually have at their house. And then he continued on to talk about the attic that I have in the house. At this point, we renovated the house, so it's not the same attic as the one that I told you in my previous story. But yeah, we still have attic, and then this time the attic's already finished. But yeah, just for context. So he continued on describing my house, describing the placement of things. And then he started to say, so the entities in your house, there are 3 entities. The first one is in the staircase. So whatever you do, please make sure that you never turn off the light in that staircase. Which is weird for me because he knew that the placement of the lighting. So he told me not to turn off the light there. I was like, okay. And then he said the second one was in the attic, and I know that you have light there as well, so make sure that you never turn off the light in the attic as well. Again, I said okay. And then the third one, he said it's in your backyard. That entity sort of have the fondness towards the frangipani tree, so make sure that you take care of the frangipani tree as best as you could. The entity at the backyard is the most ancient one among those 3, and he said not to worry much about that entity because the entity is just there to protect the family that lives in that house. The entity was already there before the house is built, so it's just there to keep you guys safe, so you don't have to worry about it. I was like, okay. Well, I mean, the most interesting part for me is other than the way that he described my house perfectly without ever stepping his foot inside my house ever. The most interesting part for me is because my aunt, I do have an aunt that we all know that she is so in tune with the spiritual world, so she often have this clairvoyance ability. She dream about stuff and it happened in reality, or when she dream about something, it's most often the message from the beyond. Or I firmly believe that she also can see the entities. So yeah, she's so in tune with the spiritual world, let's just say. And my aunt also said the same thing. She's been to my house before, so she knew, of course she knew the layout because she's been there, but she mentioned the exact same thing as what my piano instructor said before. She said, keep the lights on in the staircase and then in the attic. And I always caught her glancing towards the frangipani tree a couple of times. Yeah, so yeah, that's 2 separate people, 2 people that most likely haven't met each other, but both of them have the same ability to see the world beyond. So I think that's kinda interesting. Even though I didn't see it firsthand, I'm not even sure if I ever seen it in my house, except for the story that I told you before. But yeah, I find it kind of interesting that the 2 people that most likely never met each other had the same testimony about my house. So yeah, that's my second story, my second encounter. Not really encounter, but some event that happened in my life that I attributed to supernatural events, just because it's more about knowledge that I gathered from these two in tune people with the spiritual world. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the story. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, whether you like it, or if you have any questions or any comments, just leave all of those down below. I'll do my best to get to your questions and then answer it in the next video, or I'll gather everything and then start answering it on my last video about my personal experiences with the supernatural or the ghosty ghost. Yeah, I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.